Hello, and welcome to the Cancer Journey podcast. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Sherry Ann.
So let's get grounded with Pesh. I'll start. So
Great.
physically, I am a 4. Emotionally, I'm a 4.25. Spiritually, a 4. Hope is a 4.4. And my word is trust.
Okay. So physically, I am 3.875. Emotionally, I am a 4. Spirit, I'm 4.2. Hope, 4.3. And my word is open.
Okay. So let's get started. So today we are starting our 3-part series on emotional intelligence. It is in 3 parts because in our curriculum, our emotional intelligence comes in 3 parts. So the first one being emotional literacy, the second is emotional agility, and the third being emotional impact and responsibility. So today we're going to start with literacy.
Yes. And literacy is like the beginnings of anything. If you're learning a new language, it's like, okay, let me learn the language, how to say the words, what the words are, and then you go to the meaning. And so what we want to impart here is that there is a language, and we were all raised with probably sad, glad, mad. I don't know. They said there's 5, but if you know the movie, what is it? In and Out,
Inside Out?
Inside Out with the animation. There is, I think there's 5
Mm-hmm.
initial ones, and so it's like
Joy,
the
anger, jealousy, sadness, and like I don't know, the yellow one. I think he's like nervousness or something.
or anxiety or
Yeah, yeah.
something like that. Yeah. So we have a different definition for anxiety because let's just go there. Anxiety at CJI is really a ball of emotions because, and it feels frenetic like that, right? So when you describe that, well, when you said anxiety, immediately I went to the image in my head. It's this person who's like this, like this. And so it's very frenetic, and it's frenetic because there's so much going on. There's not just one emotion, though the emotions that are there are have a freneticness to it. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
panic and worry and um, apprehension. I mean, there's a whole bunch of emotions that are all together.
Yeah, like encapsulated inside of that one emotion. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
the more literate we can be on what emotions are there and have the terminology, the more articulate we can be about where we truly are, what we're truly experiencing, and with ourselves and with other people, right? Because when you feel anything, when you're when you're letting yourself feel emotions, or you're just having emotions maybe thrust upon you, is what it feels like. um our brain isn't automatically, and especially our heart, are not saying, oh, that is blank. Like, we're not taking the moment to identify this is the exact word for what it is. And having that language, having that time to pause, really, I think that's kind of what literacy is for me too. It's like everything we do is pause and say, like, what is this, what are the words, what's the terminology, instead of having the expectation or the really quick easy, like, oh, I know that, it's in my pocket, it's fine, I got it, I know what that is, I know what happy is, I know what joy feels like. um they're all they're such a mush together that to define them really makes it more settling for you. It's like such a clear place to start, right? Like, even when you're a kid, you're learning like this easy words, like you're learning your phonics and how to put them together. And it makes it easier for you to communicate and connect with the people around you.
Yes. Yes. And that's a big part of emotional intelligence, is being able to articulate what you're feeling in this moment. I mean, the fact that I can only mention the three, mad, sad, and glad, and then there's more, but that's because they rhyme. It's like there's so much more. And as we've always said, they're messengers. So if we don't know and cannot articulate, which is the literacy, how we're feeling in this moment, then we're just kind of like going on with life. And
Mhm.
then we'll feel something, which is the feeling that's tapping us on the shoulder. I'm going to tap you on the shoulder, saying, wait, something's going on. Something's happening. Something just happened. And I need you to pay attention. And you're like, what? What? I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many times I've said, pause. What are you feeling right now? And people are like, huh, me included. What am I feeling?
Yeah.
And it's like breathing, right? We're doing it all the time unconsciously. It's just a natural thing. Well, so are our feelings and emotions, but being aware of it is totally different.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think that when we're being tapped on the shoulder by our emotions that are trying to tell us a message, um, we're obviously not getting that message at all. We're putting that aside for what we think we should want. And sometimes it's not even like, huh, what? Like, I didn't even notice. It's like, okay, let's shove that down. That tap on the shoulder doesn't matter. Go away. Like, we completely ignore purposefully because we think that is at the benefit of who? Someone. We think that it's beneficial somehow to push it away, um, instead of becoming kind of friends with it and recognizing it. And maybe that's more the agility, is being able to recognize what's here and not have that big explosive reaction that often comes with emotion, right? Because the emotion isn't necessarily the reaction. I think that's why people are so adverse to embracing their emotions, because they think that it is the reaction, that it is um what comes out of you, like externally, that is the emotion. But it's the emotion isn't here. It's deep, it's all consuming of your being, but the reaction is really your choice. And the more you know your what you're feeling, the more you cannot let that spray out everyone, and you get to be like, okay, what do I want to do with that?
Right. So, I mean, while you were talking, obviously you saw I got like a little excited there, because what gets me is when people go, oh, I'm getting emotional, and it's only about tears. Like, I'm about to cry, so I'm going to call that emotional. And I know I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. We have all the emotions, even
Yeah.
though there are the ones that we push down and we don't want to feel, and then the ones that we think we should feel. And I'm emotioning up and down because it's expansive, and then it's constricting emotions, and then it's the transitional ones. But if we don't have a language to talk about how we're feeling, we're never going to talk about our emotions.
Hmm.
And that is uniquely one of the things that makes us humans.
Yeah.
It's one of the powers of being human. Like our four-legged lovelies have emotions, but can they articulate it? No. And they can breathe like us, so that makes them a living being, but it's not, they can't articulate where we can. And if we could name it, going back to just the literacy, the language of it, then we can communicate more intelligently, more uh, freely, and more connecting.
Right, right. I mean, right now what's floating through my head is that, like, the reason people are not literate, or they think they're literate but they're really not, is that they don't take the time to even just think, like, what is this emotion? Like, we'll just throw things under the umbrella anxiety and say, like, okay, is it anxiety because it's like distrust of what's going to happen, or is it anxiety because it's repeating something that's happened to you before, like it's traumatic? Or is
Hmm.
it anxiety because it's something new that you've never done before? Like there's so much that can be there, and we're so reluctant to stay in that place. Um, and I'm not saying that you have to be in this place to be literate. Honestly, I think that a better place is to be after it and have someone, a coach maybe, to talk to and say, so what were you experiencing that moment? And instead of brushing it off, which is so easy, like we like to do with our emotions in the moment, and look, I get it. Sometimes they don't feel good. Um, to have a moment, just be like, what was that? And not let I don't know be the answer. Because it's not.
Right.
We know, you know more than anyone else exactly what you're experiencing.
And I was flashing on those three again: mad, sad, glad.
Mhm.
No one wants to be mad, so they suppress that. No one wants to be sad because it hurts, so they suppress that. But everyone thinks that they should be glad because that's one of the expansive emotions. One of the expansive, there's so many. And they're like, okay, I'm just going to be glad all the time. And then all of a sudden we get that toxic or false positivity where it's like, I you're not dimensional. You're just being what, upbeat all the time.
Mhm.
Where's the realness? Because the realness comes in the spectrum of the emotions, and that's what makes us real.
Yeah, yeah. And with situations like toxic positivity, there's a forcefulness to it, right? That feels inauthentic. And also, there's always whatever is actually beneath it will always bubble up, right? Because, like, that's even like toxic positivity is a reaction to whatever emotion you're actually feeling. Because, like, someone told you that, like, um, I don't know, someone their family was diagnosed with cancer, right? And instead of being able to just be right there with that other person, the emotion that came to you was sadness or like pain or loss or something that just like it was constricting and it felt icky. So you immediately went, "Oh, it's going to be okay. I know someone who didn't die from cancer." It's like, okay, no one needed that in this moment, and it was so inauthentic that your answer didn't help anyone in the situation. And instead it could have been just like, wow, like I'm sorry to hear that, and this is what it's stirring up for me. How's it feel for you, right? And that also just lets me know that we just skipped an opportunity by going to toxic positivity instead of saying, wow, let's be
Right,
here. Or
right.
like, what do you need? Like that makes me sad. Does that make you sad?
Right. Because now we're confused and we don't know what's going on. But the cleanest way would be to start off with literacy and know what you're feeling. So let's take that same scenario. You find out that somebody very dear to you has been diagnosed, and all of a sudden you're sad, but really you're kind of scared because you're scared for them and you're scared for yourself. It's like, uh-oh, what's going to happen to this dear person, to me? And if I can't articulate that, then you're right. I'm going to grab for something positive. Okay, I'm supposed to be this in this situation. Then I'm going to use the beach ball analogy again. It's like the emotion, and we use emotions and feelings interchangeably, is being pushed down under the water, right? And we can only do that for so long. And the deeper that we try to push it down, the more force it's got against us. So we're spending a lot of energy holding down this emotion when we let it go, like when we let it out. I mean that beach ball, it's like flying out of the water up into
Right.
the air, and we have no control over that, which is all along what we were trying to do. So it's like trying to control the emotion actually creates the opposite.
Right, right. Because it's meant to be released. That energy that comes with emotions, right? People often call it energy in motion. It's meant to be released. And it has a message, and so you know exactly how you want to release it, and you get that choice of a reaction. Not saying it's easy, but reaction is a choice. And actually, what came up for me as we were talking about this um toxic positivity, especially if someone's like diagnosed, or if, cancer is in the room, especially. Maybe it's a bit off topic, but I'm going there. um Being sad doesn't mean you're no longer hopeful. Like, I think that a lot of reasons
Right.
that people
Right.
go to toxic positivity, because it's like, okay, I have to prove that I'm hopeful and I have to cling to that. It's like, you can be hopeful and cry. You can be mad and still hopeful. You can still, it's not being pessimistic to be upset. Being pessimistic is just being like, well, they're gonna die, and being like,
Right.
well, this is going to be awful. Like, that's pessimistic. You can still have hope. You can still have love and care and support and all of those things and still be like sad.
Exactly. Exactly. And you can talk about. So, I mean, it's a connector. It's a conversation to be had. So you to be literate is like, okay, I realize that I'm really sad here. Can we talk about that? And maybe I'm going to invite you to talk about how you're feeling, and maybe you're feeling sad too. And together, we're just having a conversation, which is actually back to the release, but it's not the beach ball release. It's this like turning on the faucet and letting the water run. It's a flow. And
Mhm.
that just lets things move versus the fighting it down, holding it down, and having this explosion. It's flowing. And
Yeah. Oh,
you
I really
can't
like
have yeah, you can't have the conversation if you don't have the words. I'm looking at the map of emotions right now, and we've got sadness, and alongside of that is exactly what you said, pessimism. And then alongside pessimism is anger, fury, resentment. That's going down. That's a transitional place, and it's going down to the constricting emotions. But if I went the other way, next to sadness is pity, overwhelm, worry, doubt. I mean, look at all these words.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all these feelings. Like when I say it, I can actually feel it. That's agility, and we'll get to that in the next episode. But just being able to say the word, what
Hmm.
is it like for you to hear me say worry and doubt?
I mean, initially, even just hearing those words, right, it makes me connect to them immediately and go to, like, remind me of a place when I have felt there, which is more agility. I know it's so easy to jump for us, but worry and doubt, it's there's clarity there, right? Like, I can instantly imagine a situation rather than if you say like a more umbrella word. It's like, okay, but that could be anything, and then it starts to feel like everything, right? Like anxiety,
Right.
like it's easy to throw anxiety over everything, but if you say, yeah, it's filled with worry and doubt, it's like, okay, there's so much more clarity there. Yeah.
Clarity for you and clarity for me. And it's
Hmm.
like, wow, what is it that I'm worried about? And then we have something to connect and talk about
Hmm.
versus what's going on over there feels inauthentic because you're trying to be like, oh, everything's fine. I can't talk about that because it doesn't feel real, and actually neither could you because it's not real. But if we
Hmm.
wanted to really connect and have a conversation, that's going to give both of us clarity. You don't have to guess where I am. I don't have to pretend that I'm somewhere else. Holy moly, that's freeing.
It's so freeing. And so, two things. Hopefully, I remember both. The first one being literacy for me and how I experience like literacy. It's a lot more like intellectual. So for people who feel like it's hard to go heart first, because I think agility is definitely more heart, full body, like visceral feeling. Um, but to intellectualize and like have literal words and be able to articulate and communicate. That is the way we primarily do that in our world, in our culture. Like, we are primarily speaking to one another. Um, it becomes really essential. And so my second part that I was going to say about that is that you and I actually can be okay around people who are like, I'm fine, because we know that we are emotionally intelligent. Like, we have our literacy and we continue to practice these things. It's not like a one and done. took the course and I got in my pocket. We continue to do that practice, but usually when people say, I'm fine, it's good, yeah, everything's gonna be great. And we'll maybe ask a couple questions or two, but a couple questions or three, but we know usually when someone can go there or can't go there. And if they're not ready, we don't prod. And we also don't force, and we don't give up on people either. It's not like, oh, you don't get it, you can't do this, you don't understand. It's more like, okay, you're not ready to go there, but I'll ask the question and see if you're ready, and kind of tap into a little bit. And if you're like, no, it's all good, you're like, okay, it is all good right now for you until it's not, and we'll still be
Right.
there.
Right. And okay, so when you were little, we used to do this game where we would see a random person in the street and we would make up stories about just about them. But it's not baseless stories, because as humans, we're all humans, we sense the energy of somebody. And so if somebody walked into a room and they were like, "Ugh," body language, but also the energy that's coming off, it's like, whoa, that person's either angry, or we might use the word pissed, or like really sour. And
Hmm.
it's like, okay, so we would get that. Or if you see somebody like jumping and popping and, really jovial, it's like, oh, look, there's what I'm trying to get to is we can sense what somebody is feeling. We may not get it right, but there are words that we could speak to, and that helps us relate to the person. If
Hmm.
somebody's sad and we sense it, and and they walk in the room, I think we're probably going to be a little more gentle, and like maybe curious, but that's being coach like, um gentle and just softer. If we
Hmm.
notice that energy, it would be so much better when somebody came in and we greeted each other and we talked about being able to say, wow, you're feeling really solemn right now, what's going on? And
Hmm.
that person could say, yeah, I just got some bad news, or I just something sad happened and I'm feeling sad. Wow. There's something so clean about that, instead
Hmm.
of the guessing, which you're going to automatically do anyways, because you feel the energy.
Yeah. And literacy lets you have that language, like you said in the beginning. I mean, I've so many thoughts are coming to me now, and it's like, um, even when people don't feel like they can connect, right? 'Cause sometimes it's like, what are you feeling? Oh, I don't know. Instead of saying, I don't know, like to have just a list of emotions to go through and be able to like offer them with someone and have that back and forth of just being able to talk about it makes it easier, even if they can't feel all of that right away. Like even they can define what they're feeling is not sadness, or what they're feeling is not frustration. It's like, okay, that gives me so much clarity of what's going on. And by knowing, like, we have our map of emotions that is really, really helpful in listing out all the different ones and where they land on either being more constricting or all the way up to expanding. By knowing them and being able to name them, you're more easily able to shift out of it, right? Because it's really easy to say that, like, sadness, right below sadness is, was it pessimism? And below that is like fury or rage or something.
Excellent memory.
Well, you just said it, so but it's easy to think that, like, oh, I'm in sadness, and if I don't recognize that, it's just gonna slip down and down. It doesn't have to. And just because it's on that kind of sliding scale doesn't mean that that's how emotions move. We're just placing them based on where they are vibrationally. I mean, there's so much that happens in your life. There's no way you just slide all the way down into the very like most constricting feeling. But the more you let yourself recognize, not just feel, but recognize, I'm sad, the sooner you can come out of it, and you don't have to worry about that slip further, right? Because if we're experiencing and not acknowledging any of the sadness within us, even giving it a name, then it perpetuates, because then it's just this like amorphous blob that can just take over because we're not saying I'm sad. Just
Right.
saying it is like so huge.
Exactly. That's that messenger who's saying something just happened and taps you on the shoulder. You could be watching a movie, which evokes a lot of emotion. That's its job. It's telling a story, and you're going to go through the not the whole map of emotions, but many of the emotions. That's again its job. And so if you were able to say, "Oh, I'm sad right now," it is almost like then you just shift to the next one. It is that easy sometimes versus, oh, I'm sad, but I don't want to feel it. And why are they making me feel this way? I'm going to turn the channel. But you're still resonating with that sad and you're not
Mhm.
acknowledging it. So it just stays here. It's like,
Right,
what? Wait, what? You want to do this? What?
right. And I think, not that I think crying is a bad thing by any means. I think crying is a great thing, but sometimes like it can come, and a lot of times it's like one of those full body cries, right? Where it's just like I can't contain myself and I'm like convulsing crying because we didn't let ourselves have any bit of it until it spilled over. Again, nothing wrong with crying. Nothing wrong with if it's anger, screaming your car. Nothing wrong with those big expressions and those big reactions, but if we had stopped along the way to recognize how we were feeling, would it be so extreme? And would it feel so intense to us if we didn't take the time to be like, I'm grieving right now? Or, and then getting to have that. Then there are pockets too where you can feel more of those expansive emotions too. Because if we don't give ourselves space for them, they can't fill that hole. Um, because if you're just sad, but something happy happens, but you don't let yourself feel it because you're stuck feeling sad, but you're not noticing that you're sad, like, I mean, a whole like ton of emotions just come up for me then, because then it's like, and now I'm frustrated, and now I'm angry, and now I'm like resentful maybe, and it piles up. It piles up.
Right, right. Because it is a natural bodily, because it comes from the body, the way our body speaks to us, function. You
Mm-hmm.
can't stop emoting. You cannot stop feeling. I'm sure there's probably some um, condition where you can't. I don't even want to go there. But what we're saying is that this is natural. So I'm going to go back to the faucet. If we don't let it flow, then if it gets stuck and it's backed up and the pressure, I mean, there's so many analogies for that. My favorite is, of course, the fart. Trying to hold in a fart for all the reasons that we do, it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
It literally hurts. And I think in a way that's what you're describing about not allowing yourself to feel is that you get all stopped up, you hurt. And it just has to come out. Again, it's a natural body thing. So
Yeah.
it what we're offering is the ability and the invitation to be totally literate with emotions so that you can be in relationship with them and yourself going, okay, what am I feeling in this moment?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, my word at the beginning of this was open, and so that can correlate to how I was feeling in that moment. Now, what am I in this moment? I'm passionate. I could tell you that. I could feel it because I have this affinity towards emotions, and I want everyone to be emotional beings. I don't want them to vomit on me with their emotions. I want them to have this conversation, this flow from the faucet, and we can have conversations about it.
Yeah. I I know when you said faucet initially, I was like, I love that analogy because we do it every day, right? Or you should be doing it every day if you're not. But we turn on a faucet so easy every day, and we just let it flow. And just the idea of letting that wash over us, and there's like this connotation to like being clean with it too that I really like. I feel like there's a lot there that is a really good analogy for allowing your emotions to run and letting them run just as much like every time we turn on a faucet, washing your hands, washing your dishes, pouring some yourself a glass of water. I'm like, can that be a challenge where every time you turn on a faucet, like you acknowledge to yourself even or whoever's around you, this is what I'm feeling right now. Just turning on the shower, like that would be so if we acknowledged our emotions as much as we turned on a faucet, um we'd all be a lot healthier, emotionally
Yes.
healthier.
I think we've built a case on um, emotional literacy. Now it's like, well, how do I become literate? And so what I want to do is I want to first say our book, the Call of Cancer, has the map of emotions in there. That's our map of emotions. Not every emotion out there, but it explains emotions and the vibration of it and all of that in there. So yeah, at least you have context about what we're talking about. But learning, it's only 27. So learning what those main, and I say main for lack of another word, um, emotions are. There's, you can even go online and they have emotion wheels where it's so big and so complex. That's why we started small with the map of emotions, which is comprehensive and yet accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can start saying, all right, I feel frustrated. That's an easy one. I hear that a lot. Or dare I say, I'm in jealousy and envy. Oh, and it's okay
Mm-hmm.
because I feel every emotion, and just feeling like I'm too good to feel jealous or envy, or that's bad, I shouldn't do that. It's like, but I do. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what makes me strive for more. That's what gives me an idea for how I want to decorate my house. I mean, those feelings are impotent, are there for no, tap 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 messenger. So I guess that's my takeaway. And so my word is, I have this book that's staring at me and it says, Today I feel silly. And so right now I'm feeling silly.
And what's your pesh?
Oh, my pesh. Well, talking about emotions, everything went up. So physically, I'm 4, uh, emotional 4-7, spirit 4-8, hope 4-7-5, and my word is silly. Your turn. Take away.
So glad that we rediscovered that book recently. Um, my takeaway is that the wider your vocabulary, it's like having a dictionary, right? And it means that you're more articulate and able to better communicate with the people around you. So for anyone who is kind of in that like place of, oh, like I just kind of avoid emotions, like they're kind of icky, or like I don't get them, like it's too touchy feely for me, you have them anyways. And a really easy, accessible way to start working on them is to even just like look up a list of emotions and just like read through them, and like have them at your disposal. Um, because the more you recognize your own emotions, the more you start recognizing other people's emotions as well. And then you can be in this place with them and have the understanding of a greater experience than just your own. Um, I have so much that I want to say. But I'll cap it at that. And my pesh. Physically, I am a 4. Emotionally, I'm a 4.67. Um, spiritually, I'm a 4.5. And hope is a 4.5. And my word is contrarian.
That's
Thank you so much
provocative.
for joining us. We'll be back next week.
Yes. And have a lovely rest of your day. And remember, you're so much more powerful than you realize. Bye for now.